Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryankaravavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Dayakaram Dayakaram Dantam Dharma Pravartakam Pranamami Dayanandam Madacharya Varam Param. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. We'll also chant the opening invocatory verses for Tattvabodha and Vivekacūḍāmaṇiḥ. Vasudevendra Yogindram Natva Jnanapradam Gurum Mumukshunam Hitarthaya Tattvabodho Bhidiyate Sarva Vedānta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satgurum Pranatosmyaham. So we are now seeing the trichotomous, big English word, trichotomous view of a human being. What does that mean? We are not just the physical body. Tattvabodha and Vivekacūḍāmaṇiḥ, both the acharyas there explain that there are three bodies within this human form. There's a physical body which is available for all to see, the subtle body which pervades the physical body, which lights up the physical body, lights up the sense organs, lights up the mind. And of course, there is the next body that we're going to see, which is the kāraṇaśarīraṁ. And this kāraṇaśarīraṁ is the most subtle of all the bodies. It is the final cover that one has to transcend for self-knowledge to take place. So kāraṇaśarīraṁ, again, it is, although it's considered a separate body, we include it with the sukshma because it is also subtle. We can't see it, but it is more subtle than sukshma. So in Tattvabodha, it is said, the question is asked, kāraṇaśarīram kim anirvācyā anādi avidyārūpaṁ śarīradvayasya kāraṇamātraṁ satsvarūpā'jñānaṁ nirvikalpakarūpaṁ yadasti tatkāraṇaśarīram. So the explanation of kāraṇaśarīram is given in the Tattvabodha in such a way. We will also see in Vivekacūḍāmaṇiḥ, as I said, it has an additional explanation which it helps with our understanding. So what does Tattvabodha say? So the student, as we know, it is a form of dialogue. So the student asks the Guru questions and the Guru responds. And all of this particular text is about covering terminologies that you will need to understand and grasp for entering into Upanishad level studies. So he asks, what is this causal body? So the first response the Guru gives says, anirvācyā. Anirvācyā means literally, it cannot be explained. So that's it. anirvācyā cannot, that's it, we should finish with that. But then he carries on because he must have seen student is very disappointed with that answer. So he says, it is beginningless, anadi. Then he says also, it is avidyārūpaṁ, it is the form of ignorance. And śarīradvayasya kāraṇamātraṁ, it is the sole cause for the other two bodies, which are the sthula shariram and the sukshma shariram. And identification, of course, with both, with all of them, makes one ignorant. Satsvarūpā'jñānaṁ. Identification with this kāraṇaśarīram makes one ignorant of one's true nature. So it is avidyārūpaṁ, it is the nature of ignorance, the sharira. And nirvikalpakarūpaṁ, what does that mean? It has a form that is free of changes. So vikalpa means changes. Nirvikalpaka means without, free of thoughts, free of changes. And this is how the causal body exists, he says here in the Tattvabodha. We're going to see the expansion of all of this. So I'm going to add now a Vivekacūḍāmaṇiḥ, couple of verses in Vivekacūḍāmaṇiḥ, verses 120 and 21, they describe the kāraṇaśarīram, adding an extra element to this unfoldment. What is said there? Avyaktametattriguṇairniruktaṁ, tatkāraṇaṁ nāma śarīramātmanaḥ, suṣuptiretasya vibhaktyavasthā, pralīnasarvendriyabuddhivṛttiḥ. And 121, he says, sarva prakara pramiti prashantihi bijātmanāvasthitireva buddhehe suṣuptiretasya kila pratitihi kinchinna vedmiti jagat prasiddhehe. So, basic meaning I will give, and then we will unfold each of those explanations. The first verse says this unmanifest, which is described as a combination of all three gunas, is the causal body of the individual. So here in Vivekacūḍāmaṇiḥ, three gunas are being brought in. It is a combination of the three gunas. And he adds here, its special state is deep sleep. Kāraṇaśarīram is exclusively active in deep sleep. It is active also in the daytime when you are ignorant of things. That is also kāraṇaśarīram. But exclusively, it is deep sleep where we are in kāraṇaśarīram. And we'll see how. And he says here, in the deep sleep, in which all functions of the mind, of the intellect, and the sense organs are totally suspended. They are suspended, meaning they are not destroyed. Suspension means that they come into being. The next morning, what happens? When the sukshma shariram wakes up, actually it's not just your physical body that wakes up. What wakes up first? Your sukshma shariram wakes up first. Then the sthula starts moving. Sometimes there is a gap between the sukshma waking and the sthula moving, So waking up and getting up, there is a problem here. We have this problem because sometimes there's a gap for people. But here he's saying that all the sense powers, the mind and the intellect are resolved in the deep sleep. And then you are in bija avastha. In the next verse, he says, he points out bijātmanāvasthitireva buddhehe. Where do they resolve? Where are they sucked back in? They are sucked back into bija form. They're sucked back into a seed form. You exist in this kāraṇaśarīram as a seed form. It's very interesting. The mind is like a subtle seed then. There is no vritti, absolutely no thought in the deep sleep. That's why we're not aware of the external world. So everything ceases to be in the kāraṇaśarīram. But if everything totally ceases, we would die, right? So what functions to keep the physical body alive? Only thing that functions is prana. The prana functions just to keep the body alive. It's the same in comatose, when you're comatose as well, the prana is functioning. But, comatose patients, sometimes they can remember. So there, it may not be exclusively kāraṇaśarīram. There, it could be that the mind can be active, but it's not able to express through the sukshma shariram. So comatose patients, they may look, when you look at them, they're plugged in to all machines and everything in the hospital, and their eyes may be closed, but they could be aware of you there, but they're not able to express. That's different to deep sleep, okay? But it is a state where you're semi-active, you're not fully active in both states. In deep sleep, you're completely inactive, only prana is functioning. So he says, kāraṇaśarīram, this is the kāraṇaśarīram. Now we're going to have a look at all the separate components. I mean, what he said, what they have said, these texts, we'll have a look at separately in more depth. Etat avyaktam, he says first in Tattvabodha. Avyaktam is a word, very beautiful word, which means unmanifest, unseen, imperceptible. Although it is imperceptible, unseen, and unmanifest, does not mean it doesn't exist. There are many things that are unseen, imperceptible, but they exist. When they come into manifestation, you know of their existence. Nothing can come out of nothing. Something cannot come out of nothing, right? This is another thing. So there are some philosophies that say, from nothing, everything is born. How can everything be born of nothing? It cannot. It had to exist in some state prior to its manifestation here in this universe. This is what this he is saying here. There are only two states for all of us, only two states for this whole universe. I've said this before, but it's good to recall here. There is manifest and unmanifest. So when we think about manifest, we think about, especially with human beings, walking, talking, singing, jumping, anything, a human being who is active, who I am able to interact with, that is called manifest. But there is another state we're unaware of, and many jivas are still in that state. Can you imagine? Many things are still in that state. That is called karana prapancha. That is the macrocosmic version of kāraṇaśarīram. I have an individual causal body, but the whole universe has a causal body which is huge. That is, Bhagavan's causal body. That causal body contains all the jivas, everything that is yet to come to manifest into the world. Where does it come from? We don't question these things. Suddenly, a baby ends up in this world. Where does it come from? Science may give its own theories, but how does it all happen? How does this manifestation happen? Everything was existing in the karana prapancha. It's existing in the causal world. So unmanifest means that we were all at one time in seed form. He brings it up here as well. Bija avastha. We're going to see that in more detail. But the next word I want to take up is, after avyakta, is niruktaṁ. That comes in Vivekacūḍāmaṇiḥ. This seed, what does it contain? Before we examine the seed, what does it contain? Before I become manifest, I'm a conglomerate of sattva, rajas, and tamo guna. So these gunas exist within the seed, actually in potential form. I am in seed form, but I am with the gunas before I emerge, right? So guna is actually a technical term that we have borrowed, Vedanta has borrowed from Sankhya philosophy. And just to give you a brief idea of what the gunas represent. So all the universe is said to be pervaded by the three gunas. If you anything you notice in the world which has equanimity, equilibrium, contentment, purity, all of this is sattva guna prominent. So anything that you see like sattva guna prominent. then all the activity you see taking place, even the little ants crawling around, the bugs, everything flying around, the birds, the human beings, interaction, all of this is due to rajas. Rajas is responsible for activity, ambition, all of this. And rajas is what we see mainly in the world, because rajas is, happening all the time, right? Especially in the waking hours in every country, everybody has to have some rajas to do their jobs. Otherwise, we'd all be sleeping, hibernating for our life, right? Hibernation, that's an interesting thing. When there's cold, even animals are programmed to hibernate. Beautiful. Why? Because tamas takes them over. Tamo guna is the last guna, which is inertia. It is responsible for inertia, sleep, apathy, indifference, depression. But you see, animals get overcome also by this tamas, and what do? They sleep for months. Amazing. They know when to sleep off the winter. I wish Bhagwan had programmed human beings like that too. We could have had 3 months. Imagine, keep all your food stored. We could save a lot on bills as well, electricity, heating. We could just sleep for 3 months, wake up in spring, and enjoy the new weather. But unfortunately, we have too much karma to exhaust, so we cannot just doze off for 3 months. Too many things to do. So here, this is tamas taking over. So when you feel sleepy, when you feel tired, and that is the tamas, you can notice tamoguna is there, active. And the Shastra says these three gunas are in Prakriti. Prakriti is the material cause for the universe. So you have this comes a lot in Bhagavad Gita. Prakriti also the Sankhyas talk about, but their Prakriti is different. That is another philosophy. But we use the word Prakriti as Trigunatmika Maya. So Prakriti, Maya are synonyms, and Prakriti is the material for the world, and that Trigunatmika, full of the three gunas. But we have to understand the guna means substance, it means quality, it means also the forces, anything, matter or energy is actually Prakriti. Even energy is included in Prakriti. And all that you see in this universe is matter and energy, right? The two things. So this is the material cause for the universe. This is Prakriti. And it is also even the little electron or atom, the further you get, they will also be impacted by the three gunas. It'd be interesting for scientists, or we have a few scientists here, maybe they can, tell me after, how even the minutest particles are also affected by three gunas, because they also behave in different ways at different times, according to different forces exerted on them or different environments they're put in. Just like us, we're put in an environment, some other guna takes over. It's amazing. We think we're so special and everything. In fact, we are very much the same as what is happening in nature. There is no speciality about each individual. We are really one and the same. So here, guna, why is it being brought in? Because the kāraṇaśarīraṁ is also composite of three gunas in equilibrium. See, when the three gunas are in equilibrium, then you are asleep. Then there's no disturbance. That means they're all tamas, helps you get into sleep. But then the three gunas are in equilibrium. In fact, Ishvara is considered, Ishvara is also when the three gunas are all in equilibrium. That is Ishvara. He is, of course, Sattva Guna predominant with Maya Shakti, but that when the equilibrium is there, then that is, deep sleep. We'll see what you're called there later on. He will bring it up, and that's equated to Ishvara. So Traigunya, three gunas are there. And there is a very interesting verse in the Bhagavad Gita we have seen in the second chapter, 45th verse, where Bhagavan says, Traigunya Vishaya Vedaha Nistraigunyo Bhavajuna Nirdvandvo Nitya Sattvastaha Niryogakshema Atmavan. So the Bhagavan says, stay free from the pairs of opposites, nirdvandva. But he says, also transcend the three gunas. So even though living a life of karma yoga, we attempt to become more sattva guna predominant, more peaceful, more content. We attempt to do that through living the lifestyle of karma yoga. Bhagavan says here, even sattva guna will tie you down to this world. That's the interesting thing. Because guna actually means, there's a meaning Sanskrit for guna. In English, it means a rope which binds you. So the word guna actually means a rope that can bind you. Being under the sway of the three gunas binds us to life on this planet. And of course, we're all seeking moksha, we're seeking freedom. So we're not even bound by sattva guna. Sattva guna is what we aim for in order to discover the truth of ourselves. But sattva guna also is binding. We are not after any of the gunas ultimately. Bhagavan says this very clearly. Traigunya Vishaya means subject matter of the Veda is the sattva, rajas, tamas alone. And this whole jagat, these three factors have to have been there in potential form for this universe to come into manifestation. The gunas, if you look kāraṇaśarīraṁ and kārana prapancha, the causal universe and the causal body, if you look at both, understand that the three gunas are there in both in unmanifest form. What happens when they manifest? The three gunas also come into manifestation. Why? Because there is a rule, the cause always inheres the effects. Any cause always inheres the effects. See, if you have a gold chain, gold, the cause inheres the chain, right? Gold earring, gold, the cause inheres the earrings. Same with any material you take. Take all the clay world. Any item you take of clay, the clay lid, the clay glass, the clay plate, the cause inheres the effect. In the same way, if sattva, rajas, tamas are there in the causal form, they will manifest into manifest form because the cause inheres the effect. How do they manifest in us then? So when the causal body goes to sleep, when I wake up in the morning, what happens? The first thing that happens, you should notice, is knowledge. What is that knowledge? I am awake, right? You recognize I am. When you say I am awake, who is awake? That I thought wakes up. So you're right, actually, you're saying I am awake means that I thought first is awake. Then only the body wakes up. When you say I am awake, really, generally, we don't think of the physical body first. It is, if you really look at it, it is the I thought that wakes up. So first comes into being sattva guna. So from the sleep, I am awake, knowledge comes, then sattva guna. Then what happens? Soon as sattva comes into the picture, you start rajas. I am doing, I am active, I have to brush my teeth, I have to have a shower, I have to go to work. There you are, you're already in rajas. So first thing in the morning, sattva, rajas, and then all day you're in rajas, rajas, rajas. Maybe sometime at lunch you may doze off, tamas may overpower. But generally, we're always in rajas. And then at night, what happens? Tamas again. Kāraṇaśarīram. You enter potential form in kāraṇaśarīram. So tamas, very interesting. The same way the Jagat also does that. How beautiful. It's happening on an individual level here for each one of us. In the universe also, it's happening. Everything wakes up and then it goes back into, sleep as well. You see trees as well. Some trees, I can't remember the name of the trees, but their leaves, when they wake up in the morning, the leaves unfold. And when they're going to sleep, the leaves fold back, It's very beautiful to see this happening in nature also. So we see that all over. Everything goes back into potential form. And what is responsible? Tamas. So tamas is that quality that gives us that sleep. So he says here, nistre gunyo bhava. Get beyond these three gunas if you want to recognize the truth. May you recognize you are that Atma that is free from the three gunas. As long as you are affected by the three gunas, you will be in samsara, you will be confined to a particular body, mind, senses, dealing with this, also the three gunas in the external world. Other people's guna change also you have to deal with. As we saw last time, other people's moods are also changing with the gunas. So you have to deal with your own guna changes. You have to deal with other people's guna changes. You have to deal with the world's guna changes. So as long as you're stuck with these three gunas, you will also have to keep, up, you have to keep your spirits up. Otherwise, you can go very low sometimes as well. So he says here now, Bijatmana vasti tireva buddhehe. What happens in kāraṇaśarīraṁ? Bijatmana means there are bija, seeds. There are seeds. If you see, life is all about seeds. I was just thinking today, all our life is about seeds. What do I mean by that? The seeds contain all knowledge in potential. Every moment there is some seed manifesting. What is the seed manifesting? Seed of karma. Every moment the seeds of karma are manifesting for you and for everybody. The seeds you have sown in your past lives are the cause for your experiences in this life. Amazing. So everything, where are the seeds in potential form? kāraṇaśarīram. They said here, bijatmana. So it is in bija form in you. You are carrying all your seeds with you. Okay, you're carrying all of these potentials with you. You're walking, talking potentials. Actually, we're all walking, talking potentials. And what is going to manifest at what time? There's a saying in English, and it's very true. God only knows. Literally, God only knows. Only God knows. So, what is going to manifest at any time? God only knows. So, all the combinations for, are in the form of all possibilities. Even the body type we saw that you have, the sukshma shariram you have, the karana that you're carrying is all because of the karma, only result of karma. And what manifests at a certain time and place is, again, the order that decides. So you exhaust your karma. So kāraṇaśarīram is responsible for this bija, the seeds of your life. As I said, life is full of seeds, the seeds of your life. And you yourself go into a seed. As I said, when suṣuptiretasya kila pratitihi. In deep sleep state, you are in seed form. You are the stula shariram. What happens? Stula shariram is lying on the bed. The stula shariram is breathing in and out, sometimes snoring. I'm unaware. In fact, other people are aware of my snoring. I'm unaware of it. The whole jagat, I can wake up with snoring, but I'm in seed form. So you can tell people now, oh, you kept me awake at night. No, I was in seed form. You can't blame me. I went into seed form. So they were not in seed form. If they want to escape the snoring, they can also go into seed form. But Sushuptir, you are in seed form. You're oblivious because the body, physical body is just breathing in and out and physiological functions taking place. But I thought, and all thoughts are in seed form. And where is it? In fact, Shastra sometimes, you see, gives a location right side of the heart here, the right side of the chest. There is a place, the spiritual heart considered, where your mind is sucked in, your buddhi, your intellect is sucked in, where everything you resolve into this place in seed form. So kāraṇaśarīram, sukshma shariram is where the prana is. So that's functioning, keeping the body alive, and you're oblivious to whatever happens in the body. Because in the morning, especially in India, in the south, you wake up and you find 100 million mosquito bites all over you. The itching doesn't start at night. Why? You're in deep sleep potential form. As you wake up in the morning, suddenly, you're scratching yourself all over. What happened? You've given the biggest blood donation in the night without being aware. So you donated to a lot of mosquitoes. In fact, just aside, but Swamiji used to say, it is a donation because you're giving only pregnant mosquitoes, female mosquitoes mosquitoes will bite. So you're actually doing a service to these pregnant female mosquitoes by giving some blood, to them. So this is what Puja Swamiji used to say. We don't know, people will have to check. But when you wake up, the knowledge, your emotions, everything, comes into the picture. From that seed form, you come into being. Then what else is this kāraṇaśarīraṁ? He says, anirvācyā. So even though it's explained like this, he says anirvācyā, which means sat asatbhyam anirvachaniyam. We have seen this before, if you remember. You cannot say kāraṇaśarīraṁ is totally existing. This is the weird thing. You can't say it's totally existing. Why? Because there is a time where it doesn't exist, and that is when you are in that self-knowledge. When you wake up to yourself, when you understand yourself in reality, where is kāraṇaśarīraṁ? There is nothing like kāraṇaśarīraṁ. So you can't say it is totally existent. But can you say it's totally non-existent? You can't say, because we have the experience of deep sleep. So there is something that I resolve into. You cannot say it's totally non-existent. You cannot say it's existent. Same with the other two bodies. You can't say it exists in truthfully, it exists in reality fully. And you can't say it is totally false either. It is in between reality. Because we know that sarvam kalvidam brahma, only one consciousness exists. There is only one truth. With the Upanishads, all Vedānta scriptures reveal that one truth. So everything is given a in-between reality. This is what anirvācyānādyavidyārūpaṁ means. It means there is a reality in between, totally existent, totally non-existent. Like, you can't say the wave. If you take a wave and water on the ocean, right? You can't say the wave is totally non-existent, right? Because you see the wave, but you can't say it is totally existent. Why? Because what is the content of the wave? It is water. When you're looking from the perspective of water, where is wave? Water will say, what is this wave? Only I exist. This is why, from looking from the perspective of consciousness will say, only I am there. Consciousness cannot speak, by the way. There's a book called Consciousness Speaks, but consciousness cannot speak. It doesn't have any thing to speak through. But consciousness is. It just lights up awareness. And it, even though the way the names and forms and functions are all arising in consciousness, resolving in consciousness, consciousness doesn't do anything, but those names and form and functions do have a reality because you perceive them. We cannot dismiss their reality and say it's an illusion. When I go to when I go to Japan, I'm sitting and I see the tsunami is coming to me. I can't keep looking at it saying, this is an illusion. It's not real. It's an illusion. Then I'm goner, right? No, it's not an illusion. I have to run. If I see something like that coming towards me, run for it. So it has a reality, but it is not absolutely real. So this is the whole trick in life. Maya makes this Jagat look very, very real. And in fact, when you examine it further, it is really everything resolves into everything else. And everything ultimately resolves into Brahman, including the kāraṇaśarīram. That's why he says, anirvācyā. You can't understand it. And it can be destroyed, because if once you know the truth of yourself, there is no kāraṇaśarīram. So that is the truth in all 3 periods of time. kāraṇaśarīram is not the truth in 3 periods of time. So the in-between reality, anirvācyā, is called mithya. Satyam is the one truth. This is called mithya. So kāraṇaśarīram is mithya, and it is not you. It borrows existence from Sat. Like the moon borrows sunlight from sun. Its own light, it's not its own light. It's not self-shining. It is reflected light. kāraṇaśarīram also borrows light from consciousness. It borrows existence from consciousness. Sukshma shariram, stula shariram, all of these. And it is anadi. In the text, it said no beginning. You can't conceive of a beginning of karana sharira because the buddhi has to come into existence to know the beginning of it, right? Buddhi has not come into existence, it's in causal form. How will you know the beginning if the thinking capacity hasn't even come into existence? So the buddhi is not there. No time if there is no buddhi, okay? If there is no intellect, there is no time. All of our life, if you see, we're based on psychological time. It is only when we think there is time, there is time. You look at this. When you are asleep, hours can go by, right? And you're not unaware. You don't know. You think, oh, I'm going to just have a quick cat nap, 20 minutes. You go to sleep. What happens? You wake up and 4 hours you slept like a log. You're out. You don't even recognize unless you look at the clock and the buddhi registers time. Time exists because you think it exists. Can you imagine? It is psychological. All the time we work on in this world is actually psychological. In fact, time is mithya. Time is given in vyavahara, transactional world. So people, the things can function, people can attend meetings. Can you imagine having a corporate meeting, board meeting, and all the participants coming in late, one coming in this time, one coming in another time, saying, oh, time is mithya. It's all psychological. It doesn't matter. No, nothing in the vyavahara will function. That is why in the vyavaharika reality, we do abide by time. But in fact, it is timeless reality. Each moment is timeless. Every moment I'm living in a timeless reality. I am that timeless reality is the truth. So anadi means you cannot conceive of the beginning of this karana sharira. And it is avidya rupam kāraṇaśarīraṁ. It is not knowing, because in the Vivekacūḍāmaṇiḥ, kinchinna vedmiti jagat prasiddhehe. There is a line there that says, kinchinna vedmiti, which means I didn't know. Kinchinna vedmi iti. I did not know a thing in deep sleep. I did not know a thing in deep sleep. When you wake up, you say that, right? Why do you say I don't know a thing? Because who is present there in deep sleep for you to wake up and say, I didn't know anything? You must have been there in some form, right? Witnessing the deep sleep, waking up saying, I didn't know anything. See, it's like entering a dark room. I'll give you an idea. When you enter a dark room, and your eyes are open, right? What do you say when you enter a dark room and somebody shouts out, from outside the door? What do you see in there? And you say, what? I don't see anything. I don't see anything. How do you know you don't see? Your eyes are open, your eyes are functioning, but you know your eyes don't see. See, think about it. You know your eyes don't see. In the same way, when you enter into deep sleep, there is nothing there. It's like entering a dark room. You don't see any thoughts. You don't have any interaction with anybody, but you are aware of deep sleep. This is the beauty, because when you wake up, you say, I didn't know anything. I did not know anything, which means you must have been in that state for you to make that statement, right? So that is awareness. You are as awareness, you're present in deep sleep, lighting up that state, but it is in kāraṇaśarīram, so it is avidya rupam. You're ignorant. While you're in that state, you're ignorant of your witnessing the state. That is the unfortunate thing. Once you recognize the truth, Atma, then you recognize you are the one that lights up all the three states. You light up the waking state, you light up the dream state, you light up the deep sleep state. But in kāraṇaśarīram, in deep sleep, you do not know anything. You're avidya rupam. Avidya means totally ignorant. There's a saying, ignorance is bliss. You have these very good sayings in English which actually match the Shastra. Ignorance is literally bliss. Because the next thing we'll see is the Panchakoshas. Kāraṇaśarīram is linked to Anandamaya Kosha. kāraṇaśarīraṁ and ānandamaya kosha, the sheath of limitlessness, of joy, that sheath is linked. Because in deep sleep, when the I is dormant, when you have no problems, you have nobody to face, there's no duality. Remember, in deep sleep, where's duality? There is no duality. You don't have to deal with the world. You don't have to deal with others. So what do you love about that state? You love that Advaita, because nobody wants to wake up in the morning. It's very difficult. What you really love is Advaita. In deep sleep, you're in Advaita, but you don't know it, unfortunately. See, if you're a self-realized person, you can be open-eyed and know it, and you won't be disturbed by the Dvaita, by the duality. But in deep sleep, you're in non-dual state, but you don't know it. Only when you wake up again, the I comes, then all the problems come, all the projections come, all the, everything comes. So kāraṇaśarīraṁ avidyārūpaṁ means that you are in ignorance there. You don't know that you are lighting up that state. And nirvikalpakarūpaṁ, there is no distinction in that state. There is no differentiation in that state. When you're in deep sleep, you will be unaware of anything. There's no changes in that state. Nothing. Even the thoughts, there's no thoughts in that state. You're in a seed form, undifferentiated condition. All your sense powers are also in seed form. Senses also stop functioning. So everything stops functioning. It is in seed form in that state, unmanifest, undifferentiated state. And that is, called nirvikalpaka. There's no differences at all. Nirvikalpaka, including your ego, is gone. So you are in no form. You don't have any form, name and form. Your name and form is also resolved in the kāraṇaśarīram. pralīnasarvendriyabuddhivṛttiḥ. He says that here, the mind and intellect also in undifferentiated condition. The knower, known, and knowledge are all resolved into one. There is no vikalpa at all. It is in a way like nirvikalpa samadhi. You may have heard nirvikalpa samadhi is very similar. But what is the difference between nirvikalpa samadhi? Nirvikalpa samadhi is a state you enter where there's no duality, and you're aware of it. You're aware of the state. But deep sleep, you are not aware, as I said. So samadhi, when you do enough practices, meditate a lot, you can be in that state, nirvikalpa samadhi. But we don't aim for nirvikalpa samadhi. Why? Because it is a state you enter. And what is the fault of that? What is the limitation of states that you enter? You have to come out of it, right? Any state you enter, you have to come out of. I don't sleep forever. I don't dream forever. I don't stay awake forever. These are all states of experience. Nirvikalpa samadhi is also a state. When I go into the state, I have to come out one day. And when I come out of that state, even though it was so blissful or so happy when I was there, what happens? Same anger, same things come back with me, no change at all. I just enjoyed a vacation for some time, okay, in myself. So all these practices will help you enjoy a vacation within yourself, very cheap. You don't have to spend money for this vacation. It is going within vacation. Enjoy yourself. And when you come out, you will be exactly the same. In fact, more angry. Generally, all the rishis, when they're disturbed from their samadhi, what happens? They have anthills. You read that. They have anthills growing around. Their nails are very long. Their hair is all unkempt. They don't have any body consciousness. Everybody thinks, wow, wow. And they do namaskaram to them. But the moment somebody touches them, they wake up. What happens? Shapa, curse. Yeah, you will have a son who will be, who will die at 16 or something like this. They will put some curse. Because anger, they were in a state of joy in Advaita. They were in a state of limitlessness. Suddenly they get woken up. Of course, they will get angry because they have not resolved their, again, issues don't get resolved in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Issues only can resolve in your waking state. Okay, let's be clear. Waking state is very useful for you to connect to Ishvara, to resolve all the issues in Ishvara's order. That is why waking state is very important. I can't keep escaping waking state through sleep or samadhi. Both are escapes. So that is sleep, enough sleep is required to rest the body and mind, but not as escape. So the samadhi and all this, we have to be clear. So here, nirvikalpakaha means I'm an undifferentiated condition. And finally, he says, śarīradvayasya kāraṇamātraṁ. This kāraṇaśarīram, causal, is the seed for the sukshma and the stula. It is called the causal because the effect is the physical body. The effect is the subtle body. The potential is in the kāraṇaśarīram. And Bhagavan triggers the potentials from within you, actually. You have all the potentials within you. Who triggers? Bhagavan, to form your karma that you have to exhaust. He triggers everything from within. And then you come into manifestation and satsvarūpā'jñānaṁ. You don't know your reality. You don't know who you are. In the kāraṇaśarīram, you are ignorant, total ignorance. So ignorance is also there with you. And the amazing thing is what? I am not this causal body. I am the witness of the causal body. I have to recognize that more and more, that recognition that one is this consciousness that pervades all the three bodies in and through, at the same time remaining untouched by all the three bodies. In that recognition, the three bodies, at least two of them, they are mityafied. Three are also, the third one is mityafied. They're all mityafied. I've just created a verb. Mityafy the jagat. Mityafy everything, because everything is mithya. And you recognize that when you recognize the truth of yourself, which is Atma. So I'll leave it here for this week. So Hari Om. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayah, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhag Bhavet, Asato Ma Satgamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate, Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Hari Om to all. Hari Om.